and welcome to episode 62 of Toke Signals TV, where we bring you the biggest in cannabis and hemp news stories every week. I'm Steve Elliott, the editor at TokeSignals.com, and I'll be guiding you through the news. First, let's look at our bud pick of the week. We have this week Ghost, which is a cross of AFPAC times White Widow. These pretty flowers were matured 8 weeks under LED lighting. I got the genetics from Secret Seeds in Seattle. Let's do the news now, shall we? In Oregon this week, they're having a tough fight there over marijuana legalization, vote next month. And we have a marijuana legalization opponent admitting he was wrong, claiming there were child deaths in Colorado due to marijuana. An Oregon physician who outraged the crowd at a Tuesday night debate on marijuana legalization when he claimed 5 Colorado children had died from cannabis retracted his statement on Wednesday and acknowledged that he was wrong. "I really need to retract that statement because I can't back it up," said Dr. Ron Schwartzler, medical director at an addictions treatment center in Eugene. Schwartzler claimed he might have been misunderstanding stories of children who had been hospitalized in Colorado after accidentally ingesting marijuana-infused edibles. Telling a whopper seems a much more likely explanation, Dr. Schwartzler. When Tuesday's discussion turned to the issue of how legalization is being implemented in Colorado, Schwartzler said, "Let's concentrate on those edibles. There have been at least 5 infant children deaths in Colorado that have picked up these drugs." Several audience members on the spot began yelling, "Not true," and "What source?" The ill-informed physician was apparently unaware that there has never been one single documented case of a fatal marijuana overdose in human history. Schwartzler on Wednesday emailed a statement to leaders of the No on 91 campaign admitting his mistake. "After our conversation today, I realized that my statement about children's deaths in Colorado is in error," he wrote. "There have been admits to ICUs for children who have eaten edibles and were hospitalized. I was in error and deeply regret any consequences of my actions," Schwartzler wrote. "As a physician, I make every effort to be honest with my patients and myself. When wrong, I try to promptly admit it and make amends whenever possible." After Schwartzler retracted his false claim, Measure 91 spokesman Peter Zuckerman called it yet another example of how opponents of marijuana reform have for 70 years been using misinformation and scare tactics to keep cannabis illegal. Zuckerman said more accurate information about marijuana would become available when it is legalized and regulated. The Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment has broached the idea of restricting marijuana edibles to hard lozenges and liquid drops, but backed away from that idea after the proposal became public. A state commission is now studying what restrictions to adopt. In Maine, a marijuana legalization advocate this week challenged a police chief to a pot versus booze drug duel. In order to prove once and for all that marijuana is less harmful than alcohol, Marijuana Initiative proponent David Boyer challenged South Portland Police Chief Edward Googans to a drug duel. Boyer was in the Mill Creek Park gazebo at high noon on Wednesday, prepared to take a hit of marijuana for every shot of alcohol consumed by Chief Googans, to see who would be the last man standing at a previously scheduled debate for 7 p.m. that evening. In an October 14th news story, you see, Chief Googans had said, "Claims that marijuana is safer than alcohol are so bogus, it's not even funny." He also claimed marijuana is too dangerous to make legal for adults because it continues to create and perpetuate other problems. Chief Googans made a similar comment during a press conference at the Mill Creek Park gazebo earlier this year. He is actively campaigning against the citizen-initiated referendum on the November ballot, which would make possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana legal for adults 21 years of age and older under city law. Every objective study on marijuana has concluded it is less addictive than alcohol, less damaging to the body, and less likely to contribute to acts of violence. It is one thing for Chief Googans to speak out against the initiative, but it's another for him to speak out against science, said Boyer, Maine political director for the Marijuana Policy Project. It is shocking that he would publicly declare that alcohol poses less harm to consumers than marijuana. It's on par with a government official announcing broccoli is not healthier than cheeseburgers, Boyer said. We have done everything in our power to highlight the danger associated with laws that steer adults toward drinking by threatening to punish them if they make the safer choice to use marijuana, Boyer said. Enough is enough. Perhaps this dramatic demonstration of the relative harms of each substance will finally get the point across, Boyer said. But surprise, surprise, the chief didn't show up. He chickened out, didn't show up for the drug duel, so that didn't happen. In Texas this week, a woman was thrown out of her church for using medical marijuana. A woman in Beaumont, Texas, said she was cast out by her church for using medicinal cannabis. Faith Bodle said she uses cannabis oil extracted from marijuana to treat degenerative spine disease, congestive heart failure, and arthritis. Fellow church members at Beaumont Seventh-day Adventist Church became concerned after Bodle publicly supported the medicinal use of marijuana on a TV news report. 12 News had first spoken to Bodle at the arraignment of Jeremy Bork, who is facing marijuana charges. Bodle was there to show her support for cannabis legalization and medicinal use. She said she got a letter from her pastor telling her to stop using and promoting marijuana. And then 6 weeks later, the congregation decided to revoke her church membership. Bodle's son, Jason Falconbridge, said cannabis is the only pain relief his mom can find. She's got a beautiful heart, and to see her ostracized makes me angry, Falconbridge said. Falconbridge read a letter from his mother's physician, which mentioned she takes the extract for medicinal and not recreational purposes. She has benefited from taking this supplement, and it has improved her quality of life. It's about bringing relief from pain and suffering, and that's what Jesus wants. He doesn't want to see his children suffer, and that's why he created this awesome plant, Bodle said. The pastor's letter to Bodle states they don't promote the use of addictive drugs, whether they're legal or not. In the United States this week, 2/3 of Americans believe the benefits of medical marijuana outweigh its risks, according to the latest survey. Floridians are set to hit the polls on November 4th and decide the fate of legalizing medical marijuana in the Sunshine State with Amendment 2. And another debate is brewing. Do the benefits of medical marijuana to treat chronic pain outweigh the risks? According to a recent survey conducted online in October by Harris Poll on behalf of Miami Jewish Health Systems among over 2,000 adults, 2 out of 3 Americans, some 68%, believe that yes, the benefits of using medical marijuana to treat pain outweigh the risks. When looking at age groups, those between the ages of 55 and 64, 74% of them are more likely to agree with the statement that benefits of using medical marijuana to treat pain outweigh the risks than those aged 45 to 54 who agreed at 63%, and those over 65 who agreed at 59%. But you'll note that all 3 groups had healthy majorities of people who agreed that marijuana is safer. Men and women feel the same way, with 68% of men stating the benefits of marijuana to treat pain outweigh the risks, and 69% of females indicating this. In the District of Columbia this week, the marijuana legalization initiative there got major endorsements from the NAACP and the National Organization of Women. The Washington, D.C. chapter of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, and the D.C. branch of the National Organization for Women on Thursday came out in support of marijuana legalization and endorsed D.C.'s Initiative 71. Now, Initiative 71 is on the November 4th ballot, and it would legalize the possession of up to 2 ounces of marijuana for adults over the age of 21. It would allow individuals to grow up to 6 plants in their homes. D.C. laws prevent the ballot initiative from addressing the taxation and sale of marijuana. However, the D.C. Council is currently considering a bill which would account for such provisions. Additionally, the Washington Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights and Urban Affairs on Wednesday released its groundbreaking report entitled The Collateral Consequences of Arrests and Convictions under D.C., Maryland, and Virginia Law. This report is the first of its kind to examine the effect of the collateral consequences associated with arrests for residents in the DMV area. The endorsements of the local NAACP and DC Now chapters further underscore the fact that ending the war on drugs is a civil rights issue of significant importance in the District of Columbia, said Dr. Malik Burnett, DC Policy Manager for the Drug Policy Alliance. Additionally, the release of the Washington Lawyers Committee's report on collateral consequences begins to deconstruct some of the additional harms caused by the war on drugs and points to opportunities where tax revenue from marijuana can be used to advance restorative justice. The possession of 1 ounce of marijuana is currently decriminalized in the District of Columbia, and persons found with more than this amount face a $25 civil infraction. Data from the Metropolitan Police Department reveals that 77% of tickets written during decrim have been in communities of color. The NAACP DC branch strongly advocates to end the war on drugs, which has caused significant damage to our communities, said Ekosua Ali, president of the NAACP DC branch. Endorsement of Initiative 71 does not mean that the NAACP is pro-marijuana. However, we view Initiative 71 as a step towards ending discriminatory drug policies. Earlier this month, the D.C. Council voted unanimously to allow individuals with criminal records for marijuana possession to have those records sealed. This is the first of 2 votes required for this law to take effect. The second vote will take place later in October. Criminalization of marijuana has played a major role in the racial disparities and injustice in the criminal justice system, according to Susan Motet, president of D.C. Now. D.C. Now works to end all discrimination in D.C. and urges the voters to pass Initiative 71 to help put an end to this tool for discrimination. In California this week, police raids on medical marijuana gardens cut off treatment for kids with epilepsy. As promising results from clinical trials are announced in the use of medicinal cannabis to treat intractable epilepsy, those lawfully cultivating the plant in California are being raided by law enforcement. 2 gardens destroyed by police in the past 2 months in Mendocino County and Modesto contained a rare strain of medical marijuana rich in cannabidiol, CBD, used by children, many of whom did not respond to other drug treatments. On August 5th, unidentified men in camouflage dropped from an unmarked helicopter onto the 120-acre property of Potter Valley resident and cancer survivor Susan Schindler, cutting down her lawfully cultivated medical marijuana plants. In addition to growing for herself, Schindler was cultivating rare strains of medical marijuana rich in CBD, a non-psychotropic constituent of the plant, which were being used orally by children with epilepsy. Schindler was also cultivating plants rich in THCV, another active constituent, or cannabinoid, that was producing positive results for a patient with Parkinson's disease. The County of Mendocino Marijuana Eradication Task Force is suspected to be responsible for the raid on Schindler's garden, but so far county officials have not admitted to it. There was no paperwork, no copies of any warrants. They didn't leave any inventory of what they took, Schindler told CBS News last month. Lamenting the loss of medicine for children who have few places to turn for CBD-rich cannabis, Schindler also said that the rare strains and their genetics were destroyed forever as a result of the law enforcement raid. According to the Epilepsy Foundation, 2.8 million Americans live with epilepsy, and more than 1 million live with uncontrollable seizures. Earlier this year, the foundation issued a statement in support of medical marijuana, calling on the federal government to reclassify it for therapeutic use. We strongly condemn police raids that rob children and others of a promising medication that may improve their lives when other drugs have failed, said Foundation Board Chair Warren Lammert. Such raids continue to stand in the way of individual rights of access and further scientific study. We urge local jurisdictions to meet with families and growers to better understand the challenges families and individuals living with epilepsy face every day, Lammert said. And finally, in the United States this week, rock star Melissa Etheridge talked marijuana in a new Larry King interview. Music icon Etheridge sat down with Larry King on the Emmy-nominated series Larry King Now to talk about the panic in her industry, President Obama's job performance, legalizing marijuana, and her new self-released album. As a cancer survivor, Etheridge explained how medical marijuana got her through it and why cannabis should be legal across the board. I think it could help our society incredibly, she said. You can view that entire interview clip on the Hemp News article, U.S. Melissa Etheridge talks marijuana in new Larry King interview. Before we go this week, I want to thank the nice people at the National Cannabis Patients Wall for giving me this cool new t-shirt. They have a great project there, and if you want to check them out on Facebook or on ncpwall.org, they are a very worthy organization of cannabis patients who have come together to defend their rights. Until we see you next week, hope you stay lifted. See you then.